Franklin arrived at the port of Philadelphia, he saw a city that had already been fairly well advertised. There were these wonderful views of the city that showed multiple spires and big buildings and booming wharves. But he did find a pretty big city by America's standards, certainly. He came from Boston, which was the oldest thriving city, and he discovered a city that was facing the Delaware. When William Penn came, he envisioned a city that spanned the two rivers. But the way it had developed in Franklin's time is that the waterfront on the Delaware was where the vibrant city existed. Here he is, a young guy who came to Philadelphia more by coincidence than by plan. He got off the boat, having not succeeded in New York, hoping to find a printing business that he could start in. One of the reasons that Benjamin Franklin is best known to us today is that he had a media outlet, namely the Pennsylvania Gazette, which he owned and controlled for many, many years. This was an interesting enterprise because not only did he publish the paper here, but he established many other men in business up and down the eastern seaboard, down into the Caribbean. And so that he not only had control, in a sense, of the local media, but he had outlets for sending this news. Franklin and the junto were very forward-looking, and the sum of their municipal projects not only transformed this village into a thriving town/city, but they laid the groundwork for the modern Philadelphia that we recognize today. The period between when Franklin arrived and 40 years later represented a huge transformation in this city from sort of a outdwelling, a place that was just sort of getting along and had so many problems, to one that was relatively progressive. And it kept getting more and more progressive. Because of the stress and strain of our modern lives and our collective anxiety, if people are finding reasons to reach out to one another and to embrace change, it's optimistic to think that we believe now that a small group or even an individual can affect change. Franklin lived in a much smaller town, and it was far fewer people who could affect change then than today, but I think the impulse is quite similar.